I was reading the parable of the sower this morning, and I love this parable. It always makes me think, how can I be good soil? You look through the different parts of the parable, and Jesus explains it to the disciples and everything, and kind of looking through bit by bit how all these things are affecting us in ways that keep us from being good soil. But just, wondering how to be good soil. And afterwards, I was writing, I'm trying this thing of just journaling a few pages after I read the word. And and I was, kind of partly kind of asking God for guidance of what to write about, and also just kind of noticing how I was feeling and everything, and noticing that I was feeling kind of a little anxiously, kind of overwhelmed, just very subtle feeling of kind of a lack of direction. And there are so many things that I have ideas of that I would like to do, and just never seems to be enough time, that kind of thing. And just really, when that happens, feeling kind of ineffective in how I'm using my time. And it does sort of, give me kind of like these thoughts of, getting to the end of my life and having not accomplished what God asked me to do, whatever that may be exactly, I don't know. So I was just writing this stuff down and kind of letting my train of thought kind of complete itself, and allowing what I know about God's mercy into my thoughts, and just really realizing that kind of discouraging feeling that we get sometimes, that doesn't come from God. God doesn't want to discourage us. He wants to encourage us. So a little while later, also, I was listening to Story of the Soul by Teresa de Lisieux, and a couple of things popped out from that. I just started listening to it. So I listened to the prologue and the very beginning of her writings, and one of the things that popped out just in the prologue, this isn't even Teresa de Lisieux writing, it's somebody who was actually telling the story of the parents, and how the father, when he went to the monastery, I think the requirement was that he had to have some kind of an education or something before he went there. And so they turned him away and they said, go, study diligently or something like that. Apply yourself diligently. That's the words that they used. Apply yourself diligently. And just, he left and he never came back because, for one reason or another, he ended up getting married and had children, and Teresa de Lisieux was one of them. So, but in obedience, he had gone out and applied himself diligently, I'm sure. And so just the apply yourself diligently kind of struck me as just a nice thing to remember. Just apply yourself diligently, but also in a context of not having these expectations of like having to accomplish some extraordinary thing, and how that tends to be, what we have in our minds of these great ideas. It may or may not be what God's asking of us. And that when we get overwhelmed with all these ideas of what we want to accomplish, then, it could be that we're asking of ourselves things that God's not asking, because God wouldn't ask us to do something that he isn't going to give us the grace and the ability and the resources to accomplish, including having enough time, etc. So, and as Jesus said, we don't want to think beyond the day. We want to look at the day that we have to work with, in terms of, not worrying about it. And Teresa of Calcutta, when she was, somebody asked her, somebody noticed, she's been working so hard and everything like that, but there's still all these people, in India that still haven't been attended to. And this person said to Mother Teresa of Calcutta that, you're not very successful. And her response was, God does not call us to be successful. He calls us to be faithful. So that's a really important thing to remember. And another thing was that I believe Therese de Lisieux said this. I'm sure everybody has said this at one point or another, every saint, but maybe not. But Therese de Lisieux is famous for this kind of stuff. She said, it's not to do great things. I can't remember exactly the wording, but to do small things with great love, as opposed to worrying about doing great things. Do small things with great love. So we can just look at whatever our day holds before us and remember that everything comes back to love. It always does. The bottom line of the gospel is love God, love your neighbor, and we can be certain that we are doing God's work. If whatever it is that we're doing it with love. So there was one other thing that Therese de Lisieux said, and I was listening to this this podcast. It's not podcast. It's a recording of Story of a Soul that I found on YouTube. And I wrote down this one quote from her, and she had been talking about the different kinds of flowers in the garden and how there are the big flowers like the rose and the lily, but then there are the little flowers. And she's known as the little flower. She thought of herself as the little flower because she didn't think that she was capable of great things. But she did have the great love. And the quote is, "The more gladly they do his will, the greater their perfection." So I just thought that was a really good thing to think of when we think of how can we be good soil. And that is that we should just really, whatever it takes for us to gladly do God's will in the little things that we do each day. And I think in order to do things gladly, we really have to be really aware of how much God has done for us and just be really grateful. Just remember how much he loves us and how he created us to love us and how he sent his son so that we could know him and so that we could be united with him, and that the goal of this life is to be in unity with him. So anyway, so may you gladly do his will today. Whatever it is that you do, just ask God to help you do it gladly and joyfully, and for giving you opportunities to serve whoever you have in your life that God gives you that you can serve, be it family, friends. It could even be clients or coworkers or whoever, somebody around the other side of the world that you're sending a small donation to, but lovingly and with a prayer, whatever you do. So anyway, I'm recording this because I need to be reminded of all of this, and I will also share it with you. So maybe it will bless you too. And I ask God to bless you, and may you have a beautiful day and enjoy the beginnings of spring. Take care.